Hi everyone, it's Keshi and welcome back to Keshi's Corner. This episode is also going to be an audio only episode, only because my phone died. I was actually recording the last video, or the last episode about the non-controversial lessons, and I was filming it until I went back at the end of it to look at it, and yep, camera completely DED. So I'm filming the other one, not filming, I guess, but I'm recording the other one right now as we speak because I wanted to have at least 2 weeks of content instead of having 1 week and then going to for another 6 months without any content on my podcast. So we're gonna trek through, like we say. I think people say that, I don't know, but let's talk about for this week 26 controversial lessons that I learned in 26 years. Again, why 26? Because I turned 26 last month, back in July, and I thought it would be fun to do kind of like a birthday episode. And I came up with 26 lessons that I learned in 26 years. As I was writing it down, I noticed that they were pretty controversial. So then I felt, why don't I make another one about 26 non-controversial, something that nobody would be fighting me in the comments for. So hopefully even this one doesn't get a lot of, I don't deal very well with conflict. So I had to think whether I wanted to put that out there. But I think it's important to still let people know where I stand on a bunch of topics, just because I want people to know the real me, right? So let's get straight into it. And again, if you have any differing opinions or anything like that, you're welcome to give your stance in the comments and to tell me how you feel. Like, it's not like it is. You are allowed to have a differing opinion on any of those, obviously. But first one is not very controversial. Comparison is I can't speak. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, not very controversial, right? But don't use this as a way to let yourself go. So yes, I know you shouldn't always be comparing yourself to the next person, and don't be doing things just to compare yourself to the next person. However, I feel like people use this as an excuse to just eat like trash and not exercise and not work on themselves, and then get really, maybe obese or get like more like couch potatoes and don't become the best version of themselves, but they just use that, oh, I just don't want to compare myself to other people, as an excuse for that. And I don't think that's a good idea. I said that in the last episode, but in the last couple weeks, we've been eating like trash, and it shows. I've been gaining weight, and I don't like it. But I'm not gonna just say I don't want to compare myself to all the other pretty ladies, and I'm just gonna be me and just keep eating what I like. No, like, still, I'm not gonna use it as a way to just let myself go. Lesson number 2. You don't need to be an expert to start something. Now, the thing is, again, that part might not be controversial. Just start small, but don't pretend to be an expert if you're not. For example, YouTube or even the podcast, I'm not pretending to be an expert at anything. Actually, in my gardening videos on YouTube or on Instagram or on TikTok, you might see that I'm saying I don't know what I'm doing. I'm adding way too many seeds there. Looking back at it, it's probably not going to work. I'm just learning. My channel, my podcast, my YouTube, they're all about learning while doing. I have so many different hobbies, so many different adventures that I feel like I'm starting. I'm like a jack of all trades and master of none. Emphasis on master of none. So yeah, you're seeing me do archery and stuff, but I'm not, don't expect me to just be good at it just because I do it. I just love learning new things, but I'm not an expert. So you don't need to be an expert. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but it's very important to not pretend like you are. Now, something that I would say I have more experience on is nutrition, because I have studied it. I've done a lot of research, not done a lot of research, but like read through and yeah, I guess done research, not conducted research, but just researched online. As well as got my certification for a nutrition course and doing another one right now for the diploma, the level 5 diploma from MNU, Mac Nutrition University. So if I talk about those as if I have studied them more, it's because I have. But besides nutrition, that's like most other things I will not pretend to know. Even if it's cooking, baking, I'm so new to all of those. So I'm just sharing my journey so far. Lesson 3, boundaries are fine. They're necessary, in fact, but can you try to not make it your personality to have boundaries? And what I mean is to just have some flexibility too. So, like, don't be a doormat, like I said last time, and just take it when people are rude to you, but at the same time, read the room. Some people make it their entire personality to almost be the victim that everything is about boundaries. You can't say anything to them, you can't give them any constructive criticism. You have to abide and adhere to their roles basically, without any flexibility, and it's just all about them, and I don't like that. Again, boundaries are fine, boundaries are important, but I feel like we've been hearing a lot about boundaries, and in today's day and age it's more like too much, like we're hearing too much about it in a way that now I feel like some people, like a very small group of people, end up having all the boundaries in the world, but then they can say anything they want. They use the right, having the right to speech, to say anything they want, but then nobody else can say things back at them. The word privilege for different things are being thrown around a lot, I noticed. So just, again, this is a controversial video, so I'm sorry if I'm offending people, but at the same time, like, it's kind of a sorry not sorry, in the sense that I do have those. Again, I don't love conflict, so I don't love if people are going to be like yelling at me in the comments or anything like that, but I do want to express my opinion on those. I think that people sometimes use boundaries as their entire personality. Like I said, I don't mean to be mean, because some people might be listening to this and think that maybe that's what they're doing. I can't tell you if it's yes or no, but if basically you're somebody who have only been thinking about your boundaries and not other people's, maybe then you're the problem. But if you're somebody who takes other people's, I don't want to say the word boundary again, but how other people's, like, other people's feelings maybe into consideration. I'm not saying be responsible for everybody's feelings, but just to take other people into consideration and treat them as an equal, then you're fine. I'm not talking about you. You're probably a really nice person. Like, I'm talking about this small group of people who will talk about all the problems they have, but will just not be willing to do the same for other people. So they have their own rules. It's kind of like do what I say, not what I do kind of thing, is more so what I mean. Again, I don't want very like kind, sweet, kind-hearted people to just take offense to that one, because it's pretty, yeah. I don't know. If you're, feel free to talk to me about that one. Maybe I can explain it better in a conversation, but hopefully you know what I mean. And I feel like everybody has somebody who, again, is just not flexible when it comes to other people. They're very rigid in their views, very rigid in their, I don't know whether that's like pronouns or like whatever, but are not willing to accommodate other people. I think that's what I mean. I'm clearly uncomfortable when I'm speaking about this. So be accommodating and flexible too. Lesson number 4: traditional gender roles are not oppressive. They're just one way of living, one way of thriving. If they're not for you, that's fine. But I don't like when people trash talk that way of living, because the same people will preach choice and things like that, and then they will put down people who choose a more traditional gender role. So, again, if it's not for you, that's fine. But they're just one way of living, of thriving. Actually, that's the way I prefer mostly. I think it makes a lot of sense for me. I love feeling like I'm doing more womanly duties rather than feel like I need to be a man. Again, if it's not for you, it's fine, but don't just assume that people who follow a more traditional gender role are oppressive. I don't think so. And it's all about having the choice. These days, you have the choice to, again, follow a more traditional gender role, be nurturing and cook. Like for me, I love to cook for my fiance. I absolutely love it. It's my love language. Or to show my love, like cook and bake for him, or just like make the house a home. I absolutely thrive this way. And then there are some things in the house that I just tell him that's a boy job. Like I don't like taking the trash out, a lot of the yard work or things like that. Like we have a lot of lawn now. We have a much bigger space, not just a little backyard. But so he's been like slaving away at like mowing the lawn this past couple days. So he's been doing a lot outside, and when he comes back inside, he's all like sweaty and tired, and it's hard work. And I feel really grateful that I'm doing more like womanly tasks. And again, it's not like I'm not going to help him. Like if there's something that he needs help with, I'm willing to. Just like he does the dishes sometimes. So it's not anything that is set in stone, or that he can't step foot in the kitchen or I can't step foot outside or anything like that. It's just some people just prefer going by a more traditional gender role most of the time, and some people maybe all of the time. Whereas some people feel better when they are like more 50-50, I guess. Whichever works, whatever works for you. But lesson number 5, and kind of going along with this actually, is that you can be feminine, nurturing, and still strong. I do believe that a lady should be more ladylike. And that doesn't mean having to paint a picture of what you're not. But I don't find it very attractive. I'm not attracted to girls, but I will say I don't find it very nice and appealing when girls are out there just swearing all the time. Now, maybe some guys do like that, but I was brought up with a mom who hated it when I swore. We weren't allowed to swear in the house. That was a big no-no. Like the argument was lost as soon as you start swearing. Actually, that should have been maybe my last video. That's not a very controversial one. But I remember once I was having an argument with my brother, and then I said a swear word in that, and I feel like I was winning that argument until that point, and my mom just stopped the argument, being like, you know what, you're done. And then after she told me, you were right for most of it, but you lost that argument when you just started swearing instead of just using your words and expressing yourself like a normal person instead of just adding. It wasn't even the F word. I'm not gonna say it on here, but I didn't. It was kind of like what people would say, like half a swear word, I guess. But yeah, whatever it is, it wasn't okay in my parents' house. It's not gonna be okay in my current house either for my future daughters to be swearing. Lesson 6: it's okay to want a husband who leads. Again, still kind of traditional values. It's okay. It's not feeling oppressed or anything like that. I don't have much to add on this one. Most girls, I feel like, do want, at the end of the day, a guy who leads, who is able to be a leader, and that's okay. Lesson number 7: masculinity is not toxic. And making boys believe that masculinity is toxic in general, and making them associate toxic and masculinity together, this is not healthy. Like, we shouldn't be teaching young boys this and making them believe that they should be less masculine, because that ends up making men eventually that most women don't want. If we as women are being honest with ourselves, we want a strong masculine man that can lead, that can be assertive when he needs to be, can be strong, has a strong grip, has a strong mental fortitude, and also being physically strong, and at the same time the ability to be kind and be a good leader. Like, he doesn't have to be, I feel like people think when somebody is strong and somebody is a leader, then they're not a nice person or a kind person. That's not how men are. We should trust men. Like, this thing of I hate all men or don't trust men, I don't like this. This is just getting so, everybody's just starting to say that left and right, and I don't actually like this. Just because there are some bad men out there doesn't mean it's all bad men and every guy is just terrible and we should just not trust them. Sometimes women are starting to make themselves believe that we would be better off without men, and that's absolutely not true. We would not be able to function as a society. There would not be a society, I would say, if it wasn't for men and women together. Women are very important too. Obviously, we make babies, we create human beings, so there will not be a society without women either. But, that's not the question right now. Nobody's saying that we should just eliminate all women, but some people out there are saying we should get rid of all men and just function better without them, and I really don't agree with that. And I don't think most people who are even saying it, I think they're just regurgitating what they've been hearing online, and it doesn't make sense, but we're not thinking about it on any level at all. Like, we are just spitting out what we think people are okay hearing, what is socially acceptable to say, trendy to say even at this time. No, masculinity is not toxic. Lesson 8: modern feminism does not speak for every woman. That's a little, I don't want people to say I'm not a feminist. I feel like I'm not a modern feminist in my traditional views, but at the same time I want equality. And some people are like, well, that's what feminism is about. Is it? Yes, if we were fighting for the right to vote or the right, for equal, actually equality, yes, I'm all for that, but that's not what we're doing anymore. We're trying to just reverse it so that just women have the power, I feel like, and women can say whatever they want. And that's kind of how it is. I feel like as a brown woman, I can say a lot more. I can voice my opinion a lot more than a white man can, especially if my views is to degrade white men, I would say. Whereas the opposite, they can't do that. But the fact that what I'm saying is a little bit more, again, I don't know why this is controversial, but it is, then maybe people will still have a problem with what I'm saying. I don't know if it is a good idea to have this video out there or this episode out there, but I feel like it's reasonable for me to be making a video to, to let people know what I actually believe. Again, I'm a little bit uncomfortable just saying any and all of this, but again, on my podcast, I kind of want people, it's a little bit of a listen at your own risk kind of thing, and I am totally for people disagreeing and having different opinions. That's totally fine too. But at the same time, I would much rather people listen knowing where I stand instead of just assuming. Because I feel like people assume that I'm very like on the other side of all those all those conversations. But yeah, modern feminism, I feel like we're already equal, we already have way more than people back then were fighting for and were thinking we would ever have as women. I don't think I'm getting any less of anything because I'm a woman. There's scholarships that exist just because I'm a woman. I don't think there's scholarships that exist just because somebody is a man. And same thing for being a person of color. There are scholarships out there for minorities. Whereas again, like I'm saying, the white guy has less for him because we keep saying he's privileged. I feel like I'm privileged in a lot of ways that, like, even growing up, I feel like I was more privileged in a lot of ways than my white fiance was. It's just different. We keep throwing around the word privilege, but it's just different. I had a lot of things that maybe he didn't have growing up, and he had some things that I didn't have growing up, and that's fine. Everybody's different. It doesn't have to just be, oh, you're privileged just because you look a certain way. Like I don't like any of this kind of talk. I feel like it went a little bit too far along this spectrum, and it's also along kind of the lines of, actually I'll talk about that later because that's point 14. I'm getting ahead of myself. But lesson number 9 is that cancel culture is a little bit cowardly, very cowardly, I would say, because real dialogue takes courage. So if I'm getting canceled because of what I'm saying on here today, then there's no conversation. It doesn't go both ways. It's just, okay, well, whatever people on the other side is saying, that's being broadcast everywhere. But the other side, I'm just giving my opinion on here on my podcast. But if I'm getting canceled for even doing that, there's no platform, there's no right of speech, there's no real dialogue. And again, I believe that real conversation, it takes a lot of courage, and it's not easy for me to be saying. Those are things that I usually would say in small groups, and people in groups of people that I usually hang out with have, like, they would agree with maybe not all of what I'm saying, but some of them, and in a point or in a way that we're able to at least have a conversation about them. Yeah, we have a little bit of different views on them, it's totally fine, but they might not be completely on the other side of that spectrum of like conversation again. So it's a little bit easier to have those conversations then rather than online like this. But I thought that it would be helpful and important, and maybe some of you would be able to relate and again start this conversation in a healthy way. But I don't know, we'll see. Lesson number 10. If you choose a new home, you take on its values, not just its benefits. So it's not enough to, and that message, if it wasn't clear, it's for immigrants, but it's not clear, including myself. I'm just going to say that, including myself. I was born and raised in Mauritius, and we came here when I was 18, and we have dual citizenship. But so we're also Canadian citizens. But it's not enough to just come here and enjoy the freedoms. Healthcare, again, we also had free healthcare in Mauritius. That doesn't matter. To enjoy the freedoms, healthcare, safety of a country. And we came here for opportunity, and all the opportunities that we have received without upholding what sustains those things, basically, like hardware, lawfulness, or being law-abiding citizens is the least we can ask for, and our civic duty. So citizenship comes with more than just a passport. It comes with responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, like Spider-Man says. And I think that's a very important thing to say, and we don't talk about that a lot, but I think it's the least we can do to, yeah, Canada is like multicultural and everything, but to just be Canadian first and foremost, if that's what we choose. Again, we are doing the pledge when like after we pass the test and everything during the ceremony. So we are saying that we are going to become Canadian and abide to the laws there and just fit in that culture. So I don't like that people come in somewhere and then try to change everything about it, because then why did you move here? And I'm saying that as an immigrant too, because I've had to adapt, and there's a reason we moved here. There's something that we liked and we want to change, or again, in that case, more opportunity. But then let's just keep the things that are able to produce those opportunities. Let's just keep that, I guess, a thing instead of just demanding that Canada or the US or wherever you are adapts to you. So now lesson 12, gratitude should be louder than entitlement. I talked about gratitude in my last episode, but now I'm going to be linking it to entitlement. Yeah, don't be entitled. You're not owed anything. Life is not fair. All of those things. But basically just be grateful for what you have. It's okay to want more in terms of wanting more growth for yourself and things like that, but don't be entitled just because you exist. Nobody owes you anything. The world doesn't owe you anything. You gotta work for things, and yep, just be grateful for what you have. Lesson 13, contribute more than you criticize. Again, work hard. Don't be a victim all the time. Just add more to the conversation than just criticizing everything and complaining about everything. Lesson 14, being offended does not make you right. And I will say that mature people can disagree without demanding silence from others. And I feel like that's not something with cancel culture and everything that's so prevalent around nowadays. I don't remember that from when I was younger. I don't know if that was always a thing. I probably wasn't, from what I understand, but it's a little bit like we only hear one side of the story, and that is being broadcast everywhere, and then the other side gets silenced or gets canceled whenever they have strong opinions, or they get shamed. But I don't think that just because you offend somebody that should be the end all be all, like be all end all. I'm not even saying it right. So basically, like I said, being offended doesn't make you right, because people get offended for everything these days, and they get offended for other people. The amount of people who get offended for me when I'm not even offended just because I'm a brown woman is kind of crazy. Like, don't just be there's no point in me saying the same sentence over and over again, but you got my point. Lesson 15, let's just move on. Self-discipline is underrated in a world that glorifies doing what feels good. Long-term peace and habits comes from doing what's right, not what's easy. So the motivation is going to come and go, and that's a more popular saying, motivation is going to come and go, but the habits are what stays. And there's also a quote from the book Atomic Habits that's along the lines of, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, or something like this. But basically, develop self-discipline in multiple areas of your life, whether that's work, health, and fitness. Just, you probably know, like financial. And I'm not saying that I'm great at all of those or any of those. I'm working on all of them, but I do understand the importance of self-discipline instead of just waiting on motivation when it comes to anything. Lesson 16. Being nice is not the same as being kind. I feel like being nice is more of a people pleaser mentality, which I do tend to have. I don't like making people angry or sad or anything like that. even though I'm making this episode. But again, it is making me pretty uncomfortable. And right now it's kind of like I'm talking to just like myself in my room, rather than I would not be able to give a speech like that in front of people just watching me, a bunch of people I don't know watching me. That would make me uncomfortable. But so I still have that part of like wanting to be nice, but I have learned the difference between being nice and being kind. And true kindness is honest, whereas being nice is not always, and actually I would say is often not really based out of, based out of, or it's not usually that honest. It's what I mean. Because you're just trying to be nice to someone. It might not be true, but true kindness, it is based on honesty and sometimes saying what's necessary but uncomfortable. So telling somebody that they have spinach in their teeth instead of so as soon as you can, rather than letting them go and make a speech and everybody seeing that. So now I could talk about maybe if somebody's asking you if they're getting fat or not, and some people would say, yeah, being kind would be to actually, if they are, to tell them so they could do something about it. But I can't really preach that, because if somebody would ask me, I would still have that like being nice part in me that I wouldn't be able to tell somebody yes in that case, I don't think. But I'm sure you can think of other ways of how people are maybe nice versus actually kind. Being kind doesn't have to be in front of people. It's more so just how you are and how you choose to act when people are not watching, versus being nice would be in front of people. The next one, level 17, lesson 17, you don't have to agree with somebody to treat them with respect. That's very important. It's okay to have conversations, difficult conversations, but you don't have to be rude about it. Really being tolerant, like real tolerance, is being able to coexist with people you differ from, not demanding that they change for you. You don't have to be on the same page, and you don't have to force somebody to take your stance when you're in a conversation for it to be able to end that conversation. Like, I don't like when people have to keep on going in an argument or in a discussion or a conversation until the person says, yeah, I guess you're right. It's okay to have different opinions on things. Don't be rude. Don't be a bully. You don't raise your voice. Like, it's okay. You don't have to agree with somebody to treat them with respect. However, I will say that respect is earned, not demanded. So if you do want others to take you seriously, show up with integrity instead of entitlement. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Even though I said you should be treating people with respect, also, so I will think of this as, or I will say, always treat people with respect, yes, but when it comes to yourself, and if each person does this, then that will work, don't just expect it, or don't just demand it. Do earn it by, one, respecting other people. That's the best way to learn to earn respect, is by being respectful, and also just, again, showing up with integrity, being true to your word, for example, and again, being kind, being polite, all those things, and being respectful. That's how you earn it, rather than just being forceful and demanding respect because you're in a higher position in your eyes. The next one, your partner deserves the best version of you, and so do you. So I will say that it's actually important to try to maintain a nice physique and to look put together And you don't have to, wear makeup at home or anything like that, but just be a healthy version of you, be the best version of you for your partner. So when you are going on date nights, yeah, put on something cute, do your makeup then. Like, show your partner that the most attractive version of you maybe when you're going on date nights, rather than just saving that for when you go for girls' nights. Because why are you looking better for girls' night versus a date night with your partner? And at the same time, even if it's not just getting completely dolled up or anything like that, just in terms of weight, don't just allow yourself to keep getting, again, I'm talking about weight, but like gaining weight, because that's just the most popular people would think of. But don't just keep neglecting your health, let's just say that, because you're already found somebody and because you're already settled in a relationship. I think you should keep wanting to be better, not just for yourself, but for your partner and your children eventually. A lot of people say, I would die for my kids, I would die for my partner. Yeah, but also learn to live for them by being healthy. Next, I think it's lesson 20, but natural and the natural look doesn't mean you should just neglect yourself. Like, brush your hair when you go out. Like, don't just go looking like a bum, I guess, like we say. I hope that's not like swearing, but just because you like a more natural look doesn't mean you shouldn't put any effort. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, at least don't smell bad, put deodorant on, etc. I think you get the point. Next one, I think that one I might have talked about a little bit, but you won't always be motivated, so build habits instead. So be consistent, and consistency will carry you when, I guess, the excitement, the motivation fades. But I think that habit is actually very similar to one I talked about earlier, when we talked about, or maybe that was in the previous one. No, in this episode, we talked about self-discipline. So, yeah, very much similar, but again, you won't always be motivated. So it's very, very important to build habits for everything. Again, talking about the gym, it's not always fun, all fun and games to wake up and go to the gym, or to go to the gym after work. I feel like you just should schedule it in your calendar, or like set in your schedule same time every week. So whether that's like 2 times a week, let's just say, is what you're starting with. Have it in your calendar, already set the date and time that you're going to go, and then stick with that for a couple weeks until you start to build a habit. I feel like I can stick with it the most when I work out first thing in the morning. Like, if you can't, or if you don't want to, that's fine. Do what works for you to be able to build that habit. Maybe that one wasn't that controversial, but some of them are. So next lesson, the world does not owe you anything, but you have so much to offer. So life gets better when you stop waiting to be handed something and you start building it yourself. That really goes along with, you're not owed anything. Like, we don't owe you anything. Life doesn't owe you anything. Stop just demanding, but go out there, give, and then start building something and growing, and you will get things. I don't want to say you will get things, because that will make you think you're owed something, but basically, I already said it. Stop waiting to be handed something and just put some action. Get started with some actions rather than just waiting. Next one, I think that's 23 or something, but who you surround yourself with matters more than you think. So your friends would either pull you up, or like raise you up, or they will drag you down. And there's the famous quote that says that you are the average of the 5% you spend the most time with. And that's correct. So choose wisely because your future pretty much depends on it. Now, I'm not saying that you will just be like your group if you are in a group that you can't get out of at the moment, or if it's just your family and you kind of like stuck with them. But just, it's so easy to find friends online now, for example, or join a group or something like that. So find people that you want to be similar to, or like that you like to be associated with, is a good one. I'm very proud of my friends. And if people were to associate me with them in one way or another, I'd be happy because I feel like I chose right. So again, I, like me personally, I'm not into any substances, or I don't really drink that much. I don't smoke or anything like that. So a lot of my friends are similar. So we complement each other really well, but we have different hobbies that we introduce each other to. But at the same time, it's all like a similar group of like-minded-ish people, I will say. And I really like our little group. So like my friends, or even my family, like people I hang out with, I really like it. So, but I will say like they do influence you a lot more. I feel like I was never really peer pressured to do anything like, again, substances or anything like that, because even in high school I didn't have friends like that. So I always had great friends. So if you're a friend from high school who's listening to this, thank you for being amazing. But yeah, I'll move on to the next one. I'm getting tired. It's like almost 11 p.m. I usually am in bed by like 9:30. So let's just cruise through the last couple. I think it's 24, but you are not a victim of your circumstances. I might have already talked about this one, but basically life isn't always fair. Playing the victim will keep you stuck. So take ownership. Take ownership and just move forward. Okay, the victim mentality is so around. I'm like that a bunch of times. I'm not saying I'm not, like, I'm trying to work on it, but it's so easy to just be a victim of everything, of your circumstances. Just take ownership. That's very important. You're an adult. Take ownership. Next one, 25. Eat your vegetables. Again, you're an adult. It's not a huge deal. Just eat them. I don't know why it's such a big deal. Like, why do we still say we don't like vegetables? Like, you don't like any of them? Like, we're not kids anymore. That's something that's weird. Like, get used to something. Like, fine, try to start cooking. If you're not cooking, then start cooking then. Making some vegetables in a way that you like. But yeah, eat your vegetables. And I'm not always the best at this, not because I don't like vegetables. It's just because when I'm cooking something simple, a lot of times I'm thinking protein, and I just forget about veggies part for like a lot of the meals, for like most meals. So I'm actively trying to think of meals that would incorporate it more so than just having it separately. But again, I'm not making an excuse that I don't like it. It's not like I don't like it. It's just I'm finding a way to make them, to incorporate them, so I'm getting all my fiber and everything. But if the reason you're not eating them is that you don't like it, it's time to grow up. The next one is that not everything is about you, and that's a relief. I think I might have talked about this a little bit already too, but not the part that that's a relief, because the world isn't judging your every move. So if I mess up on this podcast, if I sound tired, who cares? Because like 4 people might be listening to it. And at a certain point, if 2 years from now, more people listen to it, it's still the amount of people in this world, like, it's still gonna be only a fraction. out of everybody alive here. And most people are too focused on themselves. And not in a bad way. That's just everybody's their own main character, right? So not everything, it's not that big of a deal. Again, not everything is about you, and that's a relief. If you have like pimples and stuff on your face and you're worried of going out, sometimes I think, oh my God, I have to put some concealer because I have like bags under my eye or anything. It's not that big of a deal, again. And I'm not saying neglect yourself. Again, I'm not saying don't put your best foot forward when you're going out or anything like that. I'm just saying don't feel like the world is judging everything you're doing and be paralyzed because of that. So, lesson 26, modern self love culture can become self centered. So, we're at a point where, yeah, I do agree that you have to have a very good relationship with yourself and love yourself and be confident and everything like that. But don't be selfish about it. Don't be self centered. And I don't like when people are just going around just rating themselves 10 out of 10. I don't even like the idea of rating yourself or other people, but you have to understand that an average would be a 5. Anything above a 5 would be above average. But if you tell somebody you would rate them a 6 out of 10, they would be offended. Like, why? Everybody just needs to be a 10 in everybody's eyes. Or they just say they're a 10 and just close their ears and don't want to hear anything more about it. It's just all about, like, self-love has become something else, I feel like, these days. And it can become very self-centered. So just be aware of that, acknowledge it, and just try to not just go with what everybody's saying. Like, actually try to think about it. Even what I'm saying, try to think about it. Maybe you will not agree with any of it, and that's fine, as long as it's you thinking for yourself and not just regurgitating what somebody else just said. So that's everything for today. That was 26 controversial lessons that I learned in 26 years. I hope that that was helpful, or that you were entertained, at least, in this episode. And hopefully I'll see you next week with another episode. Bye-bye.